Thanks.
There we go. I got that rolling. So we will just plunge on right in. Let me actually real quick though put up the prologue, so I'm not doing that in the middle of the episode.
Okay.
Uh,
Do I need to record anything or are you good?
I've never actually needed the backup, so
Okay.
I mean you probably don't have to.
Okay. Zoom's
You,
pretty decent.
yeah, usually when people offer, I'm like, yeah, sure. But
I mean, I can if you want me to, but if you don't,
I think it's probably fine.
okay.
I think the main thing is my computer is just being creaky and old.
I don't know.
Well, I'm still running Windows 7. Color schemes and oh, it didn't like the color scheme. Okay, that seems to be part of the problem, but now it's okay.
Oh.
It's picky. Whoa.
It's being very particular today, huh? It has fashion sense.
Yeah. Da, da, da. Text is there. Okay, we'll just ignore that scribble I made.
I was wondering if that was like a thing.
Yeah, no, no. Okay, let me rank the trivia. And yeah, we'll just jump into it. So,
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hate to have to do that, but it's
it
been a
happens.
day.
Hello, welcome to Time Enough Podcast. It's where we dive into episodes of The Twilight Zone and beyond. This is Matt here. Joining me today for Mission Log is Charlynn Schmidt. Hi, Char. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah. Of course, that's like I often say. I want that kind of a conversation, and all the mission lockers are pretty happy to come and make it happen here. So,
Happy to help. Yes.
what we're looking at today is an episode called "The Prime Mover." So, I will go ahead and do a bit of trivia on that one. The original air date here was March 24th, 1961. Script is by Charles Beaumont, though it comes from an uncredited story by George Clayton Johnson, who also writes episodes for a Twilight Zone. So I'm guessing lawyers have something to do with that. This episode was directed by Richard L. Bear. Besides his prolific directing credits in the Twilight Zone, he also helmed most of the series Green Acres, which doesn't really feel like the Twilight Zone most of the time. But
No, those are very different shows, but good on him.
speaking of another very different show, Jumbo Cobb was played by Buddy Ebsen. Throw in some white dye in his hair and a mustache, and you've got Jed Clampett from the Beverly Hillbillies. So
Oh, no kidding. That's him.
that's him. So,
Wow. Okay. That's a mind blower.
yeah, it's amazing what a mustache will do. You can see it in his eyes, though, and also he comes across as too smart in this episode, I guess. But
Yeah. He's the quiet type. Those are the ones you have to look out for.
that's right. Dane Clark was Ace Larson. With his average man features, he was often second, third, fourth billed in Warner Brother war films like Destination Tokyo and Action in the North Atlantic. Christine White was Kitty Kavanaugh. While she only has a few professional credits, one of those will be a notable return to the zone in Nightmare at 20,000 Feet.
Ooh.
Yeah, I
I've
believe
heard
she's
that's
his
a good
wife.
one.
Yeah, it's one of our Shatner ones.
Okay. That's why that name is vaguely familiar.
Yeah. Sheila is played by Jane Burgess, but that's about all the info I could muster for her. But she's in this episode enough I can't like just ignore her. So there's a name.
No. All
Uh,
right.
yeah. The crash scene we see near the beginning repurposes video from the 1958 film Nightmare Alley, which I believe was remade earlier or last year. Uh,
Hmm.
if you actually that was funny because I went to see Nightmare Alley. I guess it was March when it was playing in Japan, and I totally thought I was going to see Last Night in Soho, so I was kind of like slightly confused. I mean, both movies are good, but yeah, I just totally went in thinking I was going to be seeing a different movie. So
Well, at least your expectations were just shot right out of the gate, right?
yeah. Um, I guess I'll just throw it out and say, do you have any first impressions you want to give it on this one? I have a thought, but I'll maybe leave that for second.
Okay. Well, very first thought when I saw the episode title, The Prime Mover, coming from a 21st century context, I was thinking, Prime Mover, that sounds like an Amazon promotion or something.
Oh yeah,
Like, yeah,
Amazon Prime. Yeah.
prime movers, you get your delivery in 2 hours or less, something like that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Anyway, overall impressions of the episode, though, I liked it. It was fun to watch. It was entertaining. These actors do a fantastic job in their roles. But man, I do not want to really know any of these people except for Jimbo.
Right. And that's I guess that leads to my thought a little bit, which is I feel like this is how you have to do with great power comes great responsibility story when you don't know who Spider-Man is. Like that's kind of the
Yeah.
flow of this. Like he's got the power and he's, ends up realizing he's using it in a stupid way and basically corrupting his friend who's easily corrupted to be fair, but
Well, yeah, I mean, really, who's doing the corrupting here? Like, I feel like Jimbo is being used and abused hard by
oh yeah.
Ace.
But he to a certain extent that's I guess where the great responsibility comes in, right? So you have to sort of firewall yourself from being used that way if you have that kind of power. So
This is true. I was waiting for a moment when Jimbo either would push back and say enough, or toward the end where we know we're going to hit like the climax of the story, I thought this is where Jimbo's going to fail him on purpose. And that's not how it turned out, but close. I was really hoping that he would kind of be the moral center of the story, and that didn't completely come through.
well yeah, I mean Ace came very close to having once he's in Vegas and rolling the rolls. He's very close to having Joe Pesci and Ray Liotta come and remove all of his teeth. Something like that.
Right. Yeah, with his boys.
Now, of course, we're seeing like weird fake Vegas, recreated in like North Hollywood or whatever here. So, but it's kind of weird. We had the same problem when we did the episode The Fever, which I think features the same slot machine, though it was talking and walking in The Fever and murdering people. But
Oh.
that was cool. Here it's just a slot machine. But yeah, there's a weird disconnect between like our thoughts of what Vegas used to be, what it is now, and what we're seeing on this episode's budget. So
The three-edged sword right there.
yeah, I think the last episode in Vegas maybe like made a bit of a bum move by focusing on slot machines because it was difficult to get those in California in 1960. So they really had to like there was some weird roundabout way they had to do it. And here they focus on the card games. I think it looks a little more legit. You've spent a lot.
Uh-huh.
I think you've been in Vegas a lot more than I have. So any thoughts on that?
Not a ton. And actually that raised a question was like, where do you, I didn't know and I didn't take the time to look up, but apparently gambling was legal in Vegas in the 1960s, but apparently maybe in California it was not.
That's
That's my
right.
assumption.
So even with the prop machines, apparently there was some kind of issue with that.
Yeah, I can see that happening entirely.
Like they had to have
Yeah,
props made that were not functional, so they could not be used for gambling or something like
right.
that. Um,
Now, as for Vegas, I have gone to Star Trek Las Vegas a few times, but that's a fairly limited experience. Like, I've never really gone to just like be in the city and see the sights and walk up and down the strip. Like, that is not my style. I really don't like Vegas very much. I'm not a gambler. It's not my kind of town. So when I go straight to the hotel wherever the convention is. It's usually the Rio, and I stay there until it's time to leave. So that's what I see of Vegas.
okay, I've only had one night in Vegas in my life, which I think I also explained in that Fever episode. But basically, I got bored gambling within 5 minutes and decided to spend the rest of my gambling money on martinis. But my whole
Oh, that's much better.
yeah, and then my purpose for being in Vegas, there was no convention, but it was 2003, and Star Trek: The Experience was still there. So that was
Oh, uh-huh.
actually that was actually my main reason for being because we could have gone south through LA, and I was like, we were going from what was it, San Francisco to Prescott,
San
Arizona,
Diego?
Prescott, Arizona.
Oh, okay, okay.
So it was like we could dive down through LA or take a north edge through Vegas, and I was like, I want to go to Star Trek: The Experience, so we did the north path.
Nice. So you got
So
to go. You're so lucky.
right. Then I didn't do the Voyager, the Borg one later. It was still the classic Klingon one, but hey, that's what I wanted anyway. So
Nice. I was unfortunately way too poor in college to go to Star Trek The Experience when it was active. Never got to go.
I think
I
this
regret
was
that
a
now.
I think this was a hemorrhaging money sort of trip anyway. So
Might as well then, right?
yeah, yeah. Um, but so the thing that did kind of fit, I guess, with I'm from the redneck deep South, so some of my first jobs were teaching environmental education, like out in the boonies of like South Carolina or whatever. So, and
Okay.
I do remember this is again around 2002. I was making the money for that trip, I guess, but yeah, they would have gambling's not like straight up legal in South Carolina, I believe, but the convenience stores do have like a couple slot machines or like darts or whatever. So there's some kind of
Oh,
loophole
do
they
they?
use. And I did
Okay.
see, like rednecks like addicted to these machines a little bit like Ace, I guess. Ace being at least a little cooler as he's not, falling over the seat, morbidly obese, that sort of thing. But
Sure. But it did strike me that, yeah, he is a little addicted to gambling. And I didn't know if it was just straight up addiction or if it was out of that desperation to hit the jackpot and have the money to get married to Kitty and have a nice life.
yeah, it's like Kitty is definitely not into this from the start. So I'm like, what is the
No.
chemistry here?
And she's had her wages not paid for 3 months, right?
Yeah, if he owes you 3 months' salary, it's way past time to quit.
Okay, one, no, get a different job. And two, this guy, if you love him, I understand. Just but like, no, this is not working out. This is not a good situation, sweetie.
People can really get along and still be toxic for each other. So it's like
Absolutely.
they have the everything's all groovy in the end or whatever, the happy ending, but you're like, as usual with most movies or media, it's like, hey, what happens a month down the line? You don't get to just throw in a fairy tale happy ever after. For
No, I think they had a very long but unhappy marriage, a couple of kids. It was dysfunctional. Nobody had a good time. And that was their life, the end.
and he eventually lost his teeth to Joe Pesci, I guess. That's still it didn't happen this episode, but it's going to happen. That's what
The
I think.
highlight of his life.
um, I did find it funny that they had to splice in the car accident, but I think it worked. I didn't like. I wasn't like, oh, I think what I saw it as like it doesn't look like they filmed it for this, but it was okay.
Yeah, but being what it was, that was fine. Like on a studio budget in that day, I mean, makes perfect sense. Go for it.
Yeah. So we don't get Spider-Man yet, but they do, I guess, predict Jean Grey from the X-Men a little bit as Jimbo has his sort of telekinesis thing, which I guess 40s horror films would have things like that. So it's not necessarily something we would have first seen in the Twilight Zone, like Mentalists or something you would have seen in earlier movies.
Sure.
But it does seem like this guy's kind of a straight up, Marvel comic style mutant.
And I get the impression that he has intentionally turned it off for a long time so he can control it at will, which I found interesting.
Yeah, and I do remember like in the early X-Men comics, it's sort of the same thing where it's like a lot physical exertion. Excuse me, I'll make up a new word there. Physical exertion. Like I think that's kind of cool because they make a big deal out of that in the early X-Men comics. That Jean Grey can, only do so much before basically passing out or something, and until they just decide to
Yeah.
overpower her and make her
I
a
was kind of
god.
wondering if that's where the story was going to head. Was Jimbo going to die from just overexerting himself? And maybe Ace gets that $1 million, but at that cost.
That would have been a much more depressing episode, of course, but
Very depressing, yes. But
but
would
that
he have learned a lesson?
well, it wouldn't have been the great power, great responsibility one in that case. So I
Not
mean,
that one, no.
like I don't know. Yeah, like you said, the only person you like here is Jimbo, and I kind of feel like that's the main character. When I was doing the trivia and went to Wiki, Buddy Ebsen's as Jimbo's listed second. I was like, I feel like he is. I'm always the title character of the episode, but I feel like that's actually more of our viewpoint. Ace we're just seeing his fever dream and his obsession more or less. We're getting
Right?
actual character out of Jimbo.
Jimbo's the actual hero here. Ace is not a likable guy. I don't want him to win.
Maybe he's well, of course the character is nicer in that, but I guess he's kind of, I keep making a Spider-Man comparisons. He'd be like, Ned in the recent movies to Jimbo's superhero.
Maybe so. Maybe so. I just, yeah, I don't know. Ace, he's such a dick. I'm sorry. There's no other better way to put it. He doesn't treat anybody well. He's like using and abusing Kitty. As soon as he figures out that Jimbo has these powers, it's an immediate, oh, what can it do for me? Let's go to Vegas. We're going to get lots of money. And even when his friend has a freaking headache and just needs to sleep, he's like, no, 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 keep going, keep going. And I just wanted to slap him silly.
Well, here I'll put a bit of a different writer's hat, because you're mentioning what if he had just like killed himself from the exertion, and he's only flipping cards and dice, right? So
Sure.
not that hard, but I wonder as a story point if there had been, I don't know, just something horribly went wrong in Vegas. Like there's a, do they have earthquakes there? I don't know, but like the wall starts
I think they're
caving in, and
uncommon.
like it just, there's like he actually has to have a superhero moment where he has to use his power to save a life or something, and now he can no longer control the dice.
Ooh, that could have been interesting.
Yeah, so
Or like with the great power and great responsibility thing, where if you have to do something that drastic, that's basically like you can do that, but at the expense of your own life.
yeah, something like that. And then Ace is, it's a little more like, oh, I suddenly don't have this support anymore, because we're talking Jimbo's generally pretty cool, but he is using a bit of duplicity, as he never lost his power. He's just saying he can't do it anymore. Basically, so he is making a choice. What I just suggested would be like some kind of event happening, which so there's no choice. So maybe it is good that Jimbo has to make the choice to stop doing this.
Maybe so, because really, he should have put his foot down a long time ago. But yeah, I do wonder if, yeah, maybe we could have had a much more like higher stakes kind of ending where, say, Jimbo does lose his powers, and it's right at that moment where Ace is about to just absolutely win it all, but like they're not exactly in the same room as the boys. He has to come back, and then then it all goes straight to hell, and maybe he's in some really hot water because he doesn't have all the money. Like maybe he's gone way too high for his stakes or something like that, and then he's gonna lose it all and then some, and he'd be in hot water. That could be kind of fun,
Yeah,
facing the mob.
yeah. I thought this was a fun crew of gangsters that show up in the later scenes there. So
I find it interesting that they don't eat.
no, no. Well,
Why
they say
not?
the help doesn't eat, right? Well,
They do not. They just
maybe
smoke all day, I guess.
they're worried that the food's poisoned. I don't know how. You eat in
Maybe that's
private,
all the
right?
food they get is they have to test the food first before the
Yeah, yeah.
kingpin gets it.
I just winced a little bit when one of them said code of honor, of course. So for a
Right.
Trek reference there.
That means a whole different thing to us.
Yes. For Trekkies, those are some dangerous words to say.
Yeah, they spark feelings. It's like a trigger.
I'm thinking the other big character here that we haven't talked about, and is just as horrible as Ace, is Sheila, who is the trophy. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, the trophy wife slash she's looking for a sugar daddy.
right, exactly. So, and she is one of the four stars here. So I don't know. Does I guess he just needs the window dressing is basically the point of her. And then of course, as soon as there's a problem, she goes running in the other
She
direction,
jumps
which
ship.
is
I found that hilarious because at first I thought, oh, these two deserve each other and it's going to end very badly for them. But she does jump ship the moment things go not so great. Which, okay, yeah, that tracks.
and we
Yeah, I
saw
think she's. What's that?
just saying we saw a very similar character a few weeks ago in A Most Unusual Camera, where her men die and she's like, well, I got a pile of money.
Yeah, it was interesting how very quickly Ace pivoted. Kitty walks away finally, and good for her. Good for her. Finally, I was waiting for that, hoping for that. And then the first woman he sees, boom, hey, how about you? How about you? I think, yeah, he was looking for something pretty to hang on to for a little bit, make himself feel good. And
Of course, he's going for
yuck.
the cigarette lady, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
that's like a Manson move. I mean, that's what Charles Manson was doing in the '60s, finding people who looked a little bit like desperate or something, and then using that
Vulnerable.
to yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So that yeah,
So, okay, what are we saying about Ace right now?
that he's possibly somewhat unhinged.
Okay,
He's
so he could have been a serial killer if he'd done some LSD and lived out in Death Valley.
yeah, he is a master manipulator that has no end game or no purpose to his manipulations. So
That's a really good point. Like, yeah, he has no end to this. His greed just keeps escalating.
so he could have like a gangster posse if he keeps playing this game, I guess is my main thing. So it is nice that Ace at least is able to see enough to take a few steps back in the end, which is not always the case in the Twilight Zone. If we do have to give him a positive, he recognizes it before things get
Completely go. Right.
exactly. So
And
um
somehow he gets Kitty to marry him. Oh, honey, why? Don't
she's
do it.
she's got time to get some cold feet still.
I sure hope so.
This is something you might. I know you're not as familiar with the episodes as the guy that's watching them sequentially every week in particular, but the
No,
music in here,
unfortunately, I'm not.
yeah, the music stock, but it is used from last season's episode, "The Four of Us Are Dying," which has kind of that jazzy stuff playing as he's going through a city streets. But I thought it was a nice repurposing here. So just for another Trek connection, that's Jerry Goldsmith's score being reused here, but not written for
Oh,
this
is it?
episode. But
Hey,
yeah,
cool.
or at least some of the music is. So that jazzy theme is right out of an episode he did the score for. So um
Nice.
I do find the creative, just how they have to creatively soundtrack in a 1961 budget, kind of interesting. So
Right. Did you catch the strings that were lifting the bed up
maybe I didn't. Okay. I mean, they
on
need
each
them, of course.
side? I saw them. I'm like, that's cute. I mean, cheap special effects. They did what they could at the time. Not knocking it. I'm just observing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We did the episode a few weeks ago, the Invaders, fantastic episode, but has like the derpiest looking spaceman. Like it looks like a plush thing you get out of a claw machine or something. So not sorry, not the Toy Story. That makes it sound like the Toy Story one. It's not that. It's like a silver spacesuit, but it's that level
Mm,
of goofy looking. So
okay. It was cheaply made, and you can tell.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's a weird thing for that particular episode because it's like everything about that episode's tense and serious, and then there's just like this derpy looking spaceman who is shooting at the woman and she's getting radiation burns, and that's pretty creepy. But yeah. So
Yeah. Wow. I
anyway,
love it.
yeah, after seeing that, my point is, after seeing that, a few strings hanging from bed isn't like the worst thing.
Oh, no. And they did do their best to try and mask it. I mean, it's very subtle, but it's there if you're looking.
I'm gonna get to the questions I generally ask of everyone I always ask of everyone in these episodes. But is there anything else
Okay.
in your notes you want to throw out?
Well, I do have a question to pose to you and the audience. Did Ace actually learn anything from all of this?
I guess that's what I was saying earlier. Like 1 month later, what are we going to see? He
It
at
just
least gets
seems like he's trying to sweep it under the rug and go on as if none of it had ever happened.
yeah, he does get rid of the machine. It's going to be
He
difficult
does.
to get rid of that again. And it's good to get rid of that machine because, as Twilight Zone fans know, it'll eventually chase you out of a window. So,
So he
um,
dodged a bullet there,
yeah. So, I mean, I guess he made that step, but maybe he finds another machine next month or goes to the
right?
diner down the way, right? So, I don't know.
What happens the next time he goes to Vegas?
Yeah, I guess the thing is,
I
Kitty
don't
ends
know.
up hooking up with Shatner, which I don't know if it's better or worse, but
Yeah, I've seen clips of Shatner on the Twilight Zone. I'm not sure if that's a better choice for her.
fantastic episode of Twilight Zone to be sure. But yeah,
Yes,
I
Shatner's amazing in it.
well, let's go ahead and get. Did you have a? Sorry, I answered your question. Did you want to answer your question?
Uh, I think I have to lean more on the side of no overall. Like, yeah, he did make a couple of small changes, but really, I think if he could do it all over again with a different outcome, he would.
So he's still like a core scumbag, is your take, basically.
Yeah, he's still an opportunistic scumbag.
Okay. But
Yeah.
let's consider who exactly in this episode went into or through the Twilight Zone. I mean, we have Ace who did or didn't learn his lesson, but he is getting a weird trip, I guess.
He's definitely on the biggest trip of all, I think. Because Jimbo knows about his powers. This is a new thing for Ace. So he's definitely like cliff diving into the Twilight Zone.
Right, which sort of brings me to Jimbo because I guess he didn't go through the Twilight Zone because he's just where he always was.
Exactly. That's my thought too.
But this is him making his powers known because it seems like since he was 8 years old or whatever he says, he's been keeping it to himself. So he is changing his life a little bit by outing himself.
I suppose so. Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's a small thing, but is that going into the Twilight Zone?
yeah, maybe he's like having a philosophical thought with himself in the Twilight Zone. He's already in there anyway. Like he lives there. But
At least that part of him does. Sure. I did like his little tell of I thought everybody could do this. And then I discovered that you can't. And so then I kind of stopped.
yeah.
So he's always had that feeling probably of being a little different.
Which I mean that's a universal thing. I'm sure there's something that most of us kind of can do that we're like, oh, other people can't do that. Um, I buy I or trade or whatever. Anyway, I like to flip guitars a lot, and I got one recently. It's the have you ever heard of a dobro? And
Oh, yes.
you
I know what
tune
a
it
dobro is.
you tune it open and you play and use the metal slide you can put it in your lap. I'm like, this is so easy, everyone can do this, and so far no one else seems to be able to do it, I guess because I know.
Most people don't know what a dobro is.
Right, but I'm like,
It's
oh,
like I don't think it's a very common instrument, is it?
not that common, but it's like
Yeah.
I'm just throwing in people's laps. Oh, there's nothing to this. Just you go and then play some blues riff or something, and then they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, to me, I can't compute. It doesn't. Yeah, there's so
It's just
little.
all in here and it's really hard to explain.
Yeah. So
Yeah, some things are just like that.
and that one just being like, I'm bringing that up because it's an instrument I had not previously touched, right? So it's real close to a guitar, but it's a little different. So I'm like, oh, this is like riding a bike, which I didn't learn to do till I was 26. So
No kidding.
yeah,
Wow.
I learned. Oh
What
yes,
primarily prompted you to do it?
living in Japan and being single at the time, I need transportation.
Ah,
It's a bike. I got a bus
yes.
driver's license when I was 21, so I learned to drive a bus before I learned to ride a bike.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
So again, we all have these little fun facts. My life in general, like it's I guess weird to some people. I buggered off to Japan and never came back. Right? That's kind of a strange thing to do. But I'm like,
Sure.
oh, that's what we do, right? That's how life goes. So, I, so it sounds silly when Jimbo says that at first, but then when you think about your own life, well, I have plenty. Everyone has all these bizarre quirks that seem perfectly normal to ourselves, but would be kind of
Right.
weird when airing them out. I don't have telekinesis, I believe, but or maybe I don't believe hard enough.
Just yeah, maybe out of practice.
I got to practice. That's right. Practice
I've
some
tried.
levitation.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've really tried the telekinesis, telepathy, all of that. I would love to be able to read minds sometimes. It's just never happened for me.
Well, I was saying, I teach so much that I a lot of times I like know I'll ask a kid a question or whatever, and I know their answer before they say it. That's experience, of course, but it starts to feel like
Sure.
mind reading sometime, which is exciting.
Right? Just because well, is it deja vu where you've had this moment before and here it is again?
It's more like probably the kid because I'll usually make them ask me a question and ask it back. So they've probably one done it before, and I just kind of like in the back of my mind remember, or just in Japan, a lot of kids like want to give the standard answer, and you start to know what the standard answer is. Like, what's your favorite food? It's going to be sushi. It's very rare you
Gotcha.
hear anyone say anything but sushi. So
Interesting.
that's like the standard answer. So you know,
You
You
must
can't.
like sushi in Japan, huh?
Yeah, basically. I've met a few
Okay.
Japanese people that don't like sushi, but yeah, it's generally like actually my wife doesn't like salmon, which is she'll eat it though, so I guess it's different. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I shouldn't say anything. I'm super picky. We went to a restaurant yesterday, and my wife's like telling the wait staff, "Oh yeah, they don't give them anything with broccoli or mushrooms because they just it's this French place and they just kind of you just order the thing and you get what you get." So, which is kind of
Sure.
exciting. I like she was surprised I like that place because that's I'm usually into like ramen or something. But yeah,
Oh,
I'm just like
sure.
no,
Yeah.
I like the fact that I don't know what I'm gonna get when I walk in the door. So because most restaurants I do.
Interesting. So it's a surprise.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, how much contact would you say Kitty has with the Twilight Zone?
I think she dipped her toes,
Mm.
but backed away.
Okay, because
That's how I see it.
I feel like Sheila never quite got it.
No,
I don't,
she's kind of like in her own other little world here. It's not the
y-
Twilight Zone, it's something else.
I can't remember. Is she made aware that there's any that Jimbo has powers?
I don't think she's completely privy to that. No.
Yeah, so she's just having a weird run-in Vegas, as what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
She almost got swept off her feet by a rich guy.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we could say she has no contact, and Kitty just observes that something strange is going on, and then of course she's knowledgeable about the more of the details, so but is not actively involved. Um,
Right.
so I guess my next question is going to focus on Jimbo and Ace. Then, do they deserve their trip through the Twilight Zone?
Ooh, that's a really tough one. I want to say Ace didn't deserve it, but he didn't really gain a whole lot.
So
But he
you
also
want them?
didn't learn a whole lot. So
So you want them
I
to
feel like
lose
this kind
more?
of cancels it all out. This
Okay.
is just a dead zero.
So you need something horrible to happen to him in the end to really make
Yeah,
deserve
I
work.
really was hoping for that. You can call me a sadist if you want, but I really wanted Ace to suffer. And then poor Jimbo, I think all he really got out of it was headaches, exhaustion, and then, yeah, zap, gone.
And he's got his bit, like Peter Parker light moment. So
Right.
so
So, I mean,
this
he kind of comes out of it unharmed in the long run, I guess.
I wonder if he like actually, again, the month later, maybe after a bit, Jimbo's like, hey, what could I actually do with this? Again, kind of presaging the whole X-Men thing. The more I see, that's weird. The more I talk about this episode, I'm like, hey, this is kind of a that kind of story, just with no context yet, because that stuff doesn't exist yet.
Sure. Yeah, I want to see the sequel to this where Jimbo learns how to rein in these powers and use them for powers of good and does not tell Ace. Jimbo
Yeah,
moves on in life and is successful and has a good time. And then poor Ace is just going to run that little diner. What was it? The Happy Days Cafe with Kitty forever
yeah,
till he
yeah.
drops dead.
Yeah, that's why I want to retrofit this just with the one final scene where we have a Professor Xavier rolling up. It could be like a 20-year-old Patrick Stewart. That'd be fun.
Awesome. Yes.
With hair, doing his James McAvoy thing. Yeah. When
I
you see
love
those
that.
old photos of him, like, or even in Dune, you're just like, what? Why has he got
Right.
hair? I'm confused.
I had to do a double take when I saw that. I did not know he was in that film. And the first time I watched it, just, oh, that's Sir Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, because I think that's the only. I mean, famously, he showed up to Next Generation like not unpacking his bags for 2 months because he was like, Hollywood's not going to have me. So, previous to that,
Right.
it was just Dune. I think pretty much that, and lots of stage Shakespearean acting, which is nothing to sneer at, but you don't see it on your TV so much.
No, no, you're going to the Globe Theater for that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so let's put this on the tripometer. 0 is not trippy at all. 5 is extremely trippy. Um,
Hmm.
where do you want to throw this one? My
Ah.
mine changed a little bit during our conversation, and I'll explain that. But I made the
Oh,
guest do it
cool.
first.
Well, I'm going to give it a 2. It's a little trippy, but I think there's far more tripping to be done.
that is where I started. I started off as two, but now that we've been talking, now that I'm like thinking of it as kind of like weird proto mutant story, I'm like willing to take it up to a three because I spent most of my childhood reading X-Men comics. So
With that context, I can understand.
yeah. So for most people, yes, I would say I kind of agree with your two, but I'm gonna bump my own up for that reason because it hits a certain strain in my brain and that's a little bit trippy. So
There you go. That's fair. That's fair.
I guess we'll wind this one down unless something wild came to your mind.
No, I think that just about does it. It was a fun thing to watch. It was a good episode. Just I really wanted Ace to get his his comeuppance.
Well, there are other episodes where people get that really raw. Um,
Maybe I'll enjoy those more.
actually, I won't even say which episode it is, but I'd say the worst fate is probably a Night Gallery episode, which was Rod Serling's follow-up series. So,
Oh, okay.
and there's one episode in there that wow, for anyone that knows, and it was a female, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But you don't, that's fine. But people that know that episode, man, that's the worst fate of anyone ever. So
Okay. Well,
teaser
I'm gonna
for
have to seek that now.
yeah, that's a teaser for 5 years in the future, folks. I guess.
Okay. I'm not big on like horror in that genre, really,
Yeah,
but
that
I don't
show.
know. I'm just gonna imagine this gruesome death being Ace. That'll be cool.
Okay, yeah, sure. That sounds cool. So, sorry, you pop up. Am I wrong to say you're kind of the mission log pinch hitter these days?
That's my self-appointed title. I ran that by John. He has I have his permission to use that. That is my official title now. But that is pretty much what I do is either for Mission Log Live and now for Mission Log Prodigy. If one of the regular co-hosts can't join in, they call on me and I usually make sure that I'm available and ready. That's my job.
I almost called you in a pinch hit for a different episode a few weeks ago, but then the schedule switched, and yeah, it's like when you like Prodigy when everything has to come out like on a schedule. I keep this show
Right.
pretty far ahead. Like we're talking like a good month before this airs. So
Yeah, you're very good at your planning. You are organized, you are on top of it. But it's pretty hard to turn an episode around like when it comes out on one day of the week and then 5 days later you're releasing your own smaller window.
yeah, and with Prodigy, it's like because yeah, it's like yeah, exactly. You can't do that at all. So
And I don't get access to the screeners, so I don't even get any of that lead time.
oh no.
I know. I need to figure out how to get those. I need to talk to somebody. I've been meaning to do that.
But do you have anything of your own that you want to throw out into the
Plug?
cybersphere?
Not terribly. Like these days, I'm laying kind of low. I'm mostly on the Mission Log Discord with everybody. I love doing that. I love talking with everybody there. And we do all sorts of cool stuff. Like there's the Twilight Zone chats, there's Mission Log After Dark. We talk about everything and not just sci-fi stuff. So that's kind of become my go-to place when I want to just hang out and chat with people on the internet. I don't have a Twitter account anymore. I need to make website updates. So I'm not even going to tell you where my website is. You can find it if you search for me. I'm on Mastodon. I mean, everything's kind of in flux right now. And I'm not necessarily regularly hosting anything in particular. Like I'm around, but I'm not, doing a ton of stuff. You can occasionally catch me with Virtual TrekCon on Fridays doing Star Trek and Chill, where that is what we do. We bring up a drink and we talk about food and Star Trek and whatever else is going on in the world. That's what I've been up to. That's what I foresee myself doing in the near future by the time this gets out. So how about we leave it at that?
Sure, big step up from Neelix and Chill for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
oh, and you mentioned the Twilight Zone chat on the Mission Log Discord, which I should mention is actually me chatting in the Mission Log Discord about the Twilight Zone. So it's not a rando connection there. So you can go
Oh, okay.
hang out there. I started that channel, so
That's right. You did. Yeah,
so
that's all yours. You took that and ran.
so you can go there for one place, and then we have our weird little podcasting empire thing going on in Japan. It's a small empire, but that's on Patreon at Podcastio Podcastius, where we also talk about sci-fi films at Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary. And there's some gamer stuff with Luke Loves Pokemon, the Monster Mash about Monster Hunter, and the Game Show, which is four British guys hurling insults at each other. So
Nice.
always a good time.
I'll have to check
Okay.
that out. That sounds fun.
Okay, I'm gonna see if I can move my mouse with my mind. Oh yeah, there we go. It worked. Okay, great. You'll just have to trust me.
Cool. Too bad it was off camera.
You just have to trust me. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll make my cut there.
Okay.
Hold on. I'll tell you what the horrible fate is if you want. I just thought I'd
Sure.
leave
Tell
that
me.
very what is the episode title? Hold on, let me grab my box. I could probably just do it quicker that way.
Okay. Can be like Dom and pull out all the action figures.
I would just list the episode titles, but that will help. Anyway, it's basically like I think it's India or something, like British Empire people, and one of them is trying to kill someone with a parasite. And
Ooh.
yeah, and it's just extremely painful or whatever. Um and but then it wasn't revenge, but the bad guy ends up getting the parasite as well, and he's going to have to suffer.
Oh.
And that's why it's a female is like the horrible tagline, which means it's going to continue reproducing inside of him. And he's just going so he's basically just going to live in excruciating pain for the next however long.
Oh my gosh. Leaving room for sequels, possibly.
Yeah, and that one is.
Oh my god. Yeah, that would be the worst way to die. Just agonizing long-term pain. Yeah.
I think it's called the caterpillar.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that is well, I mean, it's not like a gory one or anything. It's just like psychologically like.
Oh, okay. So it's not just a
beyond.
bunch of blood and guts. You don't see him explode in the end or anything.
No. Oh, you see a guy looking very sickly and like, writhing in pain for an evening, and he finally recovers. But that's another. Oh, it's a female. So you're just gonna have to do this over and over now.
Oh man.
So
That sounds awful.
anyway,
I'm gonna have to watch it.
Yeah. Anyway,
Especially if it's not gory. Like I don't give any craps about gore and horror and that sort of thing, but psychologically, if you're gonna get under my skin, oh dang.
That's why The Shining holds up so well. I mean, it's not that gory at all when you get down to it. The aloe vera blood.
It doesn't need to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I guess you've got a dinner to get off to, so thanks.
Eventually, yeah, very close. Thank you very much for making this timely. This helps me out a lot.
Oh yeah, right on.
We can do all the things today. We got this.
I'll get back to you when this airs. But what is it? Oh, January 2nd. So it's like right in the new year. So
all right, cool.
I was right about a month. Okay, cool.
Yeah, nice. Okay, great. Yeah, whatever's happening, by then, whatever networks I'm on, I will promote it. Just
okay,
who knows what those will be right now.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about this kind of podcast is people kind of drift in, and if they dig it, they'll hang around, right? So
Sure. And what's great about this show is you can drop in and watch any episode at any time. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah,
it's like a fun thing to do.
Yeah,
I need to do it a whole lot more, but I'm terrible about keeping up with TV. I really am.
Oh, same here. That's why I'm doing the podcast. So I'll make myself watch every episode of this.
You know what? That is the way. That is exactly why I can't keep up with anything else, because if I'm not watching it for a podcast, it probably doesn't get done. I don't have time for it.
Like in the used store near here, they're selling a bunch of really cheap stuff, and they had the TV show Person of Interest, and I like Fringe, I like Michael Emerson. The show's supposed to be good, except that they couldn't give Jim Cassavell any fight scenes because he was just beating up everyone on the set. So, but anyway, it's supposed to be a very good show. I'm like, oh, I could get all 5 seasons for like $30. I'm like, but I'm never gonna watch them, so I didn't buy them.
Just not enough time and way too much stuff to watch these days.
Yeah,
it's an embarrassment of riches.